My name is Elena Brooks, the only daughter of Judge Edward Brooks, a man hailed as a symbol of justice in all of Seattle. But 3 months ago, I walked away from my name, my wealth, and everything that defined me to live as a nobody. Why? Because I needed to know if someone could love me when all I had to offer was myself. Before I share the truth about love, betrayal, and justice, tell me where you're watching from in the comments. If you've ever been through heartbreak or deception, hit like and subscribe. Trust me, you'll want to hear what happened next. The bus lurched to a stop at Southeast Division, and I clutched my second-hand purse tighter against my ribs. 3 months ago, I'd have never noticed the cracked vinyl seats or the way the floor sticky with spilled soda grabbed at my shoes. 3 months ago, I had a driver. I stepped off into the Portland drizzle, pulling my clearance rack raincoat tighter. The community health center's fluorescent sign flickered like it always did on Tuesdays. Inside, the familiar smell of disinfectant and hope wrapped around me. This was my world now, filing patient records for $16 an hour, living in a studio apartment where the radiator clanged like a ghost with a grudge. "Elena, you're early again," Dr. Martinez called out, not looking up from her clipboard. "The files from yesterday's vaccine drive are on your desk." I loved how no one here knew. How they'd never guessed that Elena Brooks, filing clerk extraordinaire, had a trust fund bigger than the clinic's annual budget. That my father was Judge Edward Brooks, whose face graced legal journals and society pages with equal frequency. Here, I was just Elena, the quiet girl who brought homemade sandwiches for lunch and took the bus home after dark. Noah had made all of this worth it. I'd met him during that first volunteer health fair when I was still learning to navigate this new life. He'd been drawing blood samples, his hands steady and sure, med school scrubs making him look older than his 25 years. When he smiled at me over Mrs. Chen's trembling arm, something in my chest had reorganized itself. "You new here?" he'd asked during the lunch break, sitting next to me on the loading dock where volunteers ate. "Sort of, just moved from Seattle." "What brought you to Portland?" "A change of scenery," I'd said. Not a lie, exactly. Just not the whole truth about wanting to see if someone could love me without the Brooks name attached like a price tag. Now, 3 months later, I was helping him pay for textbooks and groceries. Nothing dramatic, just picking up the tab here and there, the way any girlfriend would. My savings account dwindled steadily, but his grateful kisses made every withdrawal worthwhile. Love was supposed to be about sacrifice, wasn't it? My phone buzzed. An email notification that made my stomach drop. Invitation to Judge Edward Brooks' recognition gala. Live television coverage. The attached photo showed my father in his robes, that familiar stern smile. Below it, details about the ceremony honoring his 30 years on the bench. Black tie, media coverage. Everyone who mattered in Seattle would be there. Everyone except his daughter, who was currently sorting immunization records and pretending her last name was Smith. I deleted the email and went back to my files. But my hands shook slightly as I alphabetized the folders. How long could I keep living this double life? How long before the weight of my secret crushed the delicate thing Noah and I were building? The rain had stopped by the time Noah picked me up in his beat-up Honda Civic. I'd offered to take the bus to the restaurant, but he insisted. "What kind of boyfriend would I be if I let you take public transit to our anniversary dinner?" 6 months. Half a year of careful lies and calculated poverty. He'd chosen a hole-in-the-wall Vietnamese place on 82nd Avenue. The kind with plastic chairs and fluorescent lights that made everyone look slightly green. Perfect. I smiled as he held my hand across the wobbly table, his thumb tracing circles on my palm. "I have something for you," he said, reaching into his jacket pocket. My heart stuttered. Not yet, I thought. I wasn't ready for the test to end. But he pulled out a small velvet box, and inside wasn't the ending I feared. It was a beginning. A thin silver band with a chip of diamond so small I had to squint to see it. "I know it's not much," he rushed to say. "I've been saving for months, but with school and everything, I promise, when I'm a doctor, I'll get you something better. I love you, Elena. I want you to know I'm serious about us, about our future." The foe arrived, steaming bowls that blurred my vision. Or maybe those were tears. I slipped the ring onto my finger, where it felt heavier than my mother's 3-carat engagement ring ever had. "It's perfect," I whispered. And I meant it. That night, back in my studio apartment, I sat on the edge of my bed and called my father. He answered on the second ring, even though it was past 11. "Elena, is everything all right?" "I'm engaged," I said, the words feeling strange in my mouth. Silence. Then, "To the medical student?" "His name is Noah, Dad." "When do I meet him?" "Soon." Another lie to add to the pile. I need more time. After I hung up, I changed into my pajamas. Target brand, $12.99 on sale. Tomorrow was Thursday, which meant my other life would call. Every week, I drove the rental car back to Seattle, slipped into my walk-in closet full of designer clothes I couldn't wear in Portland, and became Elena Brooks again for a few hours. Charity board meetings, lunch with father's colleagues, the careful maintenance of a life I was no longer sure I wanted. But Noah made it worthwhile. The way he studied at my kitchen table until 2 a.m., fueled by coffee I made and sandwiches I bought. How he fell asleep on my shoulder during movie nights, exhausted from 36-hour shifts. The careful way he budgeted every penny, showing me his spreadsheets with pride. "Once I match for residency, everything changes," he'd promise. "I'll take care of you then." I started picking up evening shifts at a call center. Data entry, mostly. Mind-numbing work that paid just enough to cover his next semester's books and our rent when his roommate moved out. He protested at first, but I convinced him it was temporary. "Partners support each other," I said, kissing his frown away. What I didn't say? I have more money than I could spend in 10 lifetimes. What I didn't admit? Every minimum wage paycheck felt like a test he was passing with flying colors. The ring caught the light from the street lamp outside my window. So small, so modest, so real, or so I thought. The Rolex appeared on a Tuesday. I noticed it during our coffee date between his morning lectures and my afternoon shift. Noah kept pulling his sleeve down, but the gold caught the cafe lights every time he reached for his cup. "New watch?" I tried to keep my voice casual. "Oh, this?" He glanced at his wrist like he'd forgotten. "My study buddy Marcus gave it to me. His dad's a dealer, got it wholesale, probably fake anyway." I stirred my latte and said nothing. But I knew watches. My father collected them. That was a Submariner. Real. At least $10,000 retail. Little things started adding up after that. The Tom Ford cologne that appeared in his bathroom. Receipts in his jacket for restaurants I'd never heard him mention. Late nights that stretched later. Study groups that seemed to meet at increasingly odd hours. "Aubrey called again," I mentioned one evening, watching his reaction. His ex-girlfriend had been leaving messages on our landline. Yes, we still had one. Noah insisted it was cheaper than adding minutes to our phone plans. "She's having a hard time," he said, not looking up from his anatomy textbook. "Bad breakup. I told her to stop calling." "Maybe you should talk to her. Closure and all that." "Absolutely not." He snapped the book shut. "She's drama, Elena, trust me. I don't want her toxicity in our life." But Thursday morning, when he thought I'd left for work, I saw him texting someone with a smile I recognized. The same one he used to give me when we first met. I'd doubled back for my forgotten badge, and there he was on our couch, thumbs flying over his phone screen. "Forgot something," I said from the doorway. He jumped, phone clattering to the floor. "Jesus, Elena, you scared me." "Sorry." I grabbed my badge from the kitchen counter. "Who were you texting?" "Study group. We have an exam coming up." I kissed him goodbye and left. But sitting on the bus, I felt something cold settle in my chest. My phone buzzed with my weekly reminder. Call Dad, drive to Seattle. This time, when I put on my Chanel suit and sat across from my father at his private club, he studied me like I was one of his cases. "You look tired." "I'm working a lot." "Both jobs?" He meant the clinic and the call center. He didn't know about the third job, pretending to be someone I wasn't. "Noah's graduation is coming up. Just trying to save money." "And he's still unaware of your circumstances?" I twisted the tiny engagement ring. "He loves me for me." "Does he?" My father's voice was gentle, but his eyes were sharp. Judge's eyes. "Love and deception make poor bedfellows, Elena." That night, I installed a GPS tracker on Noah's car keys. Just a tiny thing, no bigger than a quarter. I told myself I was being paranoid, that the cologne and the watch and the late nights meant nothing. But when the app showed his car parked outside Riverside Towers, the luxury apartments near the hospital, at 2 a.m. on a supposed library night, I knew. My father had taught me to gather evidence before making accusations. So I waited. I watched. I cataloged every lie, every absence, every receipt that didn't match his stories. The woman who'd once commanded boardrooms with a single raised eyebrow was now scrolling through GPS histories at 3 a.m., wondering when love had become surveillance. I found the USB drive by accident. Noah had asked me to grab his lab notes from his old backpack, the one shoved in our bedroom closet. The drive fell out when I upended the bag, skittering across our scratched hardwood floor like a guilty secret trying to escape. Any normal girlfriend would have put it back. But Judge Brooks didn't raise a normal daughter. He raised a girl who knew that evidence didn't care about feelings. I waited until Noah left for his emergency study session at 11 p.m. Then I opened my laptop and plugged in the drive. One file, an Excel spreadsheet titled Project Phoenix. My hands trembled as I clicked it open. Names. Dozens of women's names in column A. Column B. Monthly amounts. Column C. Duration. Column D. Status. Sarah M. $500 month. 8 months. Terminated, graduated, Ashley R. $300 month. 6 months. Terminated, suspicious, Aubrey K. $800 month. 14 months. On hold. Emotional maintenance required Elena S. $650 month. 6 months. Active high potential post-graduation sponsor. I stared at my name, my fake last name, reduced to a spreadsheet entry. Below it, more details. Covers, rent differential, textbooks, food, miscellaneous. Personality, caretaker, low self-esteem, need to feel needed. Risk level, low naive, isolated from support system. Long-term value, exceptional hidden wealth, suspected but unconfirmed. The room spun. I ran to the bathroom and threw up, heaving until nothing came but bile and the truth I'd been avoiding. When I could stand again, I kept reading. Formulas, calculating return on investment. Notes about emotional manipulation tactics. Maintain 70-30 ratio of affection to distance for optimal attachment. The last sheet made me vomit again. Screenshots of text conversations where Noah discussed his portfolio with someone saved as mom. Mom, how's the new investment? Noah, Elena's solid, already covering half my expenses. Classic savior complex. Mom, family money? Noah, definitely. She tries to hide it, but slips sometimes. Playing the long game with this one. I copied everything to my cloud drive, then I searched deeper. The bank account in his dead sister's name. Lily Green, who'd died at age 3 according to the obituary I found. Active account, regular deposits. From my checking account. From Aubrey's. From Sarah's. My phone rang. Noah. Hey babe, study group's running late. Don't wait up. Okay. My voice sounded normal. Years of practice in my father's world. Keeping composure while everything burned. Love you. Love you too, investment. I mean, honey. He caught himself, laughed it off. But I heard it. The slip that revealed everything. I hung up and called the only person I'd ever seen destroy someone in court with a smile. Dad, I need you. Elena? His voice sharpened. What's wrong? Can you recommend a forensic accountant? A discreet one? Silence. Then, I'll send Marcus. He's the best. Elena, are you safe? I looked around our apartment. At the secondhand furniture I'd bought to maintain my cover. At the medical textbooks I'd helped pay for. At the life I'd built on a foundation of lies, not realizing Noah had built his on the same. I'm safe, I said, but I haven't been smart. You were brave, my father corrected gently. Sometimes they look the same until they don't. After we hung up, I sat in the dark and twisted my tiny engagement ring. The proposal in the Vietnamese restaurant, the grateful kisses, the promises about our future. All of it, a spreadsheet calculation, a return on investment. Aubrey lived in a studio apartment in Gresham, 40 minutes by bus from downtown Portland. When she opened the door, I saw myself reflected in her tired eyes. Another woman who'd loved Noah Green and paid for it in more than money. You're Elena, she said. Not a question. How did you know? He talked about you, his new project. She laughed bitterly. Come in. I assume you found the spreadsheet? Her apartment was smaller than mine, neat but worn. She served instant coffee in chipped mugs, and we sat on her salvage store couch like war veterans comparing wounds. 14 months, she said without preamble. I paid his rent for 14 months, covered his meal plans, bought him a car, the Honda he still drives. When I started asking questions, he called me crazy, controlling, said I was toxic and he needed space. But you kept paying? For a while. Love makes you stupid. She pulled out her phone, showed me screenshots. Until I found out about Sarah and Jessica and the professor. The professor? Dr. Patricia Holbrook, retired last year. She'd been funding his research projects for 3 years, thought she was investing in the future of medicine. Aubrey's smile was sharp. She's the reason I started digging. We all thought we were special. Turns out we were just diversified investments. She gave me names, phone numbers, a network of women who'd been carefully selected, cultivated, and drained. Some lost money, others lost more, confidence, trust, the ability to believe in love without checking bank statements. His mother runs it, Aubrey continued. The whole thing. She finds the marks. Women with money, but not enough self-worth. Noah does the charm offensive. They split the profits. The sister's bank account. You found that too? She looked impressed. Yeah, dead baby as a financial front. They're quite the family. I spent the rest of the day with Marcus, my father's forensic accountant, who looked like a linebacker but handled numbers like a surgeon. We traced 3 years of financial manipulation, false charity organizations, fake medical school expenses. Your boy's been busy, Marcus whistled. This is professional-level fraud. That evening, I met my father at his Seattle office. For the first time in months, I didn't bother with the charade. I showed up in my Portland clothes, jeans, sneakers, the raincoat that smelled like public transit. Tell me, he said simply. So I did. Every humiliating detail. When I finished, he pulled me into a hug that smelled like expensive cologne and unconditional love. What do you want to do? He asked. I want to burn it all down. That's my girl. He pulled back, studying my face. But revenge is a dish best served legally. We do this right. I don't want revenge, I realized as I said it. I want justice, for all of us. Then you'll have it. He picked up his phone. Judge Reeves owes me a favor. She sits on the medical ethics board. That night, I went home to Noah, kissed him hello, made dinner while he studied, smiled when he mentioned needing money for new equipment. Of course, I said, serving him pasta I'd bought with my call center wages. What's mine is yours. He reached for my hand, squeezed it. You're amazing. You know that? So supportive. Not like my ex. She was so possessive about money. I trust you, I lied, smiling like I hadn't spent the day documenting his betrayal. That's why I love you. He lied back, already calculating the withdrawal. The medical school auditorium buzzed with pride and camera flashes. Families in their Sunday best filled every seat, clutching programs and tissues. I sat in the back row, wearing the one designer dress I'd kept. Black Valentino, the kind of outfit that whispered power without shouting it. Noah hadn't invited me to sit with his mother. It's complicated, he'd said. She's very traditional, doesn't believe in living together before marriage. Better if we keep things low-key. Translation, don't let the other investors see each other. But I'd met Diane Green now, through Marcus's investigation. She ran 3 fake charities, 2 medical education funds, and had been doing this long before Noah was old enough to be her partner. The mother-son grift team, destroying women's lives one spreadsheet entry at a time. I watched Noah cross the stage in his cap and gown, accepting his diploma with that practiced smile. Dr. Noah Green. The crowd applauded. His mother beamed from the VIP section, probably calculating how much more they could milk from a real doctor title. Noah Michael Green, the dean announced, recipient of the Community Scholarship Fund Award. Another lie. The fund didn't exist. It was a money laundering front for their victims' contributions. That was my cue. I stood, walked down the aisle with the confidence of someone who'd presented to Fortune 500 boards since age 16. My heels clicked against the floor, each step echoing in the sudden silence. Excuse me, I said, voice carrying without a microphone. I'd like to present Dr. Green with a graduation gift. The dean looked confused, but gestured me forward. Noah's face cycled through emotions. Surprise, concern, then careful calculation. He didn't recognize me in designer clothes with professional makeup. I'd been his shabby girlfriend for so long, he'd forgotten I knew how to be anything else. I reached the stage, smiled at the dean, then turned to Noah. From my purse, I pulled out a printed spreadsheet. His spreadsheet. "Congratulations, Dr. Green," I said, loud enough for everyone to hear. "I thought your investors should see their returns." I held up the pages. "Let's see. Sarah, who paid your rent for 8 months. Aubrey, who bought your car. Dr. Holbrook, who funded your research. And me, Elena Brooks, not Smith, who covered everything else while you built your portfolio." Gasps rippled through the crowd. His mother half stood, face draining of color. "Did you know," I continued conversationally, "that fraud over $10,000 is a felony in Oregon? And that the medical board takes a very dim view of doctors who manipulate vulnerable people for financial gain?" "Elena, please." Noah reached for me. "Dr. Green?" I stepped back. "Your real graduation gift is in your email. Subpoenas. For you and your mother. The AG's office is very interested in your charity operations." I turned to the stunned audience. "Ladies, if this man has ever made you feel special while taking your money, please see the gentleman in the blue suit at the back. That's Marcus Williams, forensic accountant. He'd love to hear your story." 3 women stood immediately, then 5 more. By the time I left the stage, half a dozen victims were making their way to Marcus. Noah's diploma couldn't save him from what came next. The Washington State Medical Board revoked Noah's license before he could use it. The Attorney General's office filed charges for fraud, money laundering, and operating unlicensed charities. Diane Green's house of cards collapsed in 3 weeks of aggressive prosecution. I testified via video link, calm and clear, presenting evidence with the precision my father had taught me. Aubrey testified in person, her voice stronger than I'd ever heard it. Dr. Holbrook submitted written statements that made the prosecutor wince. 17 women total came forward. Noah's lawyer tried to paint us as scorned lovers. "These women willingly gave gifts to my client," he argued. "Gifts based on fraudulent pretenses," the prosecutor countered, displaying the spreadsheet. Dr. Green treated romantic relationships as investment opportunities, complete with ROI calculations. The Medical Ethics Board was less forgiving than the criminal court. They found Noah guilty of conduct unbecoming of a medical professional and exploitation of trust for financial gain. His name would never appear on a prescription pad. Diane Green pled guilty to avoid trial. 15 years of scamming charitable donors caught up in 6 months of investigation. She got 7 years, eligible for parole in 4. Noah got 3 years and restitution to all victims. "I loved you," he said during his allocution, looking directly at me. "Despite what you think, I loved you." "No," I replied from the witness stand. "You loved what you thought I could provide. There's a difference." After the trial, I established the Medical Ethics Foundation with my trust fund money I'd hidden so carefully. We provide legitimate scholarships to medical students who demonstrate both need and character. Aubrey runs our victim advocacy program. Dr. Holbrook serves on our board. My father and I have dinner every Thursday now. No more secret trips to Seattle. No more dual lives. "You did well," he told me over salmon at his club. "Your mother would be proud." "I lied to everyone, Dad, for months, to uncover a greater lie. Sometimes that's what justice requires." He raised his wine glass. "To my daughter, who learned that giving your heart doesn't mean giving up your power." 6 months later, a letter arrived at the foundation. No return address, but I recognized the handwriting. "Elena, they have me working in the prison clinic. Basic stuff. Taking temperatures, distributing medications. I think about your words every day. You were right. I never saw you, just your potential value. I'm sorry. Not for getting caught. For never really seeing the remarkable woman who loved me despite my lies. Maybe that's the real tragedy. I had something genuine and threw it away for a spreadsheet calculation." Noah, I filed the letter with the others. Evidence of change, maybe. Or just another manipulation. Time would tell. But I had work to do, and a life to live without checking my value in someone else's portfolio. The Medical Ethics Foundation's 2nd annual gala sparkled with purpose instead of mere pageantry. I stood at the podium in emerald silk, not hiding anymore, not pretending to be less than I was. 2 years ago, I began, looking out at the full ballroom. I thought love meant making yourself smaller. I believed worthiness was something you proved through sacrifice. In the audience, Aubrey smiled from her table. She'd started law school, focused on victim advocacy. Dr. Holbrook sat with our scholarship recipients, 8 brilliant future doctors who'd never have to trade their dignity for their dreams. Tonight, we celebrate 23 women who refused to let their stories end with betrayal, who transformed their pain into power, their loss into purpose. I caught my father's eye. He nodded, that small gesture worth more than any standing ovation. Some of you know my story, how I hid my identity, diminished my worth, all to test if someone could love me without my last name. What I learned instead was that someone who truly loves you doesn't need tests. They see you, all of you, and choose you anyway. The speech continued, but my mind drifted to this morning's unexpected visitor. Noah, out on parole, working as a medical assistant at a free clinic in Eastern Oregon. He'd stood in my office doorway, 3 years older and hopefully wiser. "I'm not here for forgiveness," he'd said. "Just wanted you to know. I tell my story at AA meetings now, about how I turned love into a transaction. Maybe it helps someone." "Maybe it does," I'd replied, not unkindly but not warmly either. He'd left an envelope. Inside, a check for $500. "First installment of restitution. Court-ordered, but I want to pay it all back. Everyone." Standing at the podium now, I wondered if people could truly change. If a man who'd seen women as investments could learn to see them as human. If I could trust again without installing GPS trackers or hiring forensic accountants. The Elena who hid herself would barely recognize me now. I continued my speech. She thought love meant sacrifice. I've learned love means truth. She believed in tests. I believe in trust. She made herself smaller. I'm done with that. The applause washed over me as I left the stage. In the back corner, someone watched from the shadows. Tall, medical scrubs just visible under his coat. He raised a hand slightly, then slipped out before security could react. Let him go, I thought. We all had our journeys. Mine had led me here. Whole, unashamed, unafraid. No longer testing love, but trusting it would find me when I was ready. No more hiding, no more lies, no more making myself less to make someone else feel like more. I was Elena Brooks, and I was enough.